The DCEU was filled with a lot of mistakes. However, you have to admit that it helped several characters out in large ways. It gave Wonder Woman her first blockbuster movie, and it was awesome despite a less than beloved follow up. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad made characters like Bloodsport, Javelin, Ratcatcher, Peacemaker, Polka Dot Man, and more into fleshed out and great characters all around. Black Adam, despite being a flawed idea that sealed the DCEU's fate, did give us the big screen debut of Atom Smasher, the bestest character of all time. And I'll admit, before Shazam came out in 2019, I didn't really like the character. But that movie became one of, if not my favorite from this universe, and made me really appreciate Billy Batson. But by far the greatest feat the DCEU pulled off was making general audiences respect Aquaman of all characters. You know the jokes of his design and how he's useless outside of water, but this movie portrayed the character as the god and hero of two worlds he always was. Combine that with Jason Momoa's excellent portrayal and his image redesigning the character, as well as the movie destroying the box office in a tidal wave, Aquaman is now taken seriously. And that will likely continue as the character keeps getting new movies. But what if I told you that, much like The Flash, Aquaman already had a pretty good movie released in the DCAMU series? That's right, welcome back to the DCAMU movie review series thing, where we review the DC animated movies from the Flashpoint continuity. And today we're looking at Justice League Throne of Atlantis, the fourth movie in the series. Released in 2015 and based off of a comic series of the same name, this movie tells an origin story for the King of the Sea, and would you look at that, the Justice League is here too, alright. I enjoyed this movie when I first watched it, and again when I rewatched it for this video. And like the Flashpoint paradox, this is a good movie starring a Justice League member before their big budget Hollywood film. However, unlike The Flash, I do think the live action Aquaman was a bit better than this for some reasons I'll get into later. Anyway, time for the review. Also, spoilers ahead, you have been warned. Let's start with the Aquaman stuff, since a lot of what I like in this film links back to Arthur Curry and the journey he goes on. I'd say that him as a down on his luck grieving alcoholic after the death of his father and having nothing to lose gives us a good origin that differentiates himself from Jason Momoa's Aquaman. We also get to see some flashbacks of him as a kid, which I think are really good scenes displaying his mother's love for him and how his father always kept him away from the underwater world. The writing with Aquaman isn't perfect, though. I think it's a bit silly how far he went in life without questioning how he could easily throw hands with people in the bar, survive underwater, and be knife-proof. He accepts that he's the Atlantis crown prince really quickly, which really isn't good, but considering everything that's going on in the movie, it could have been worse. I think the world of Atlantis itself is pretty well defined as a nation with history and political struggles, especially in a movie where they probably couldn't make a huge, bustling underwater metropolis. Plus, things like the throne room and the designs of the Atlantean soldiers are really neat. And then there's the political struggles between the Queen and Orm and Black Manta, which are pretty nice. I think I would have preferred something closer to the episode from Justice League the Animated Series, but I actually liked Orm a decent amount in this movie. I love how ruthless he is, even killing his own mother and lying to his nation just so he can destroy the surface world. His confrontations with Arthur are great too, where Orm berates him and how Arthur can hold his own in battle and manage to defeat Orm by revealing his treachery to the world. This version of Orm isn't my favorite incarnation of the character. I think he can be a bit hot-headed at times and his Shakespearean talking is a bit funny, but he's pretty good. Also, I loved the use of Black Manta in Orm's plot and how Manta also had his own secret plans of revolution. Really, I would just love to give this guy a main villain role, because while Ocean Master is good, there's only a few ways to tell his story. I've always thought Black Manta was cool, and this movie opens him up as more of a supervillain rather than just a henchman or smaller threat. That is until he's killed off in the climax. Dang it. And then there's Mera. She's a fine character here too. Mainly she's a support character, easing Arthur into his destiny and standing by his side with her cool waterbending powers. Her and Arthur's relationship isn't really developed a lot, but from what it is in the story, I'd call it wholesome. At least it's far healthier than the Flashpoint timeline. Alright, now let's look at the Justice League side of things, because this is labeled as a Justice League movie, and is technically a sequel/follow-up to Justice League War. They bring over most of their relationships from the first movie that I already liked, such as Green Lantern and Batman and Cyborg and Shazam. In fact, I think Shazam might actually be my favorite part of this movie. He's still funny and jovial and childish, and has the same charm he's always had. Also, here he's voiced by Sean Astin, aka Sam from Lord of the Rings, which is just icing on the cake as a Tolkien fan. Cyborg, having just become part robot in the last movie, has a bit more tragedy in this one and is seen coming to terms with his situation. He is fully plunging himself into his work and becoming, in his opinion, less human, and grows to find happiness in his friendships and even gets a date at the end. I enjoy the little arc he goes on, and he's also kind of a main character in this movie and how he reunites the League and is the one that finds out about the Atlanteans stealing the nuclear submarine. Batman has been great in all of these movies, and I think that will continue for the whole series. Green Lantern and Flash are just as fun as they have been, and Green Lantern in particular has fun interactions with both Flash and Bats. He's probably the second most charismatic character in the League, after Shazam, of course. And I guess I should comment on Superman and Wonder Woman being a couple in this movie. It's a bit odd. I definitely am more of a Lois and Clark fan, especially with their amazing portrayal so far in my adventures with Superman, but I guess Clark and Diana are alright here. I like the joke about the glasses, and that's all I have to say on them. While I still enjoy the League, I feel like for the most part they're just there in what could have otherwise been a solo movie. Like, most of this movie is them uncovering the fact that Atlantis and Arthur Curry exist, something the audience already knows from the first scene. Outside of helping during a few fights and a bit of supporting Arthur, they're just adding more fluff and taking away from the movie being about, well, the throne of Atlantis. Also, I have a hard time believing that the League is already mostly disbanded. Like, you can't tell me between this and their first appearance that they already don't care about the team. In fact, the first act is mostly them just reassembling the League, which mixed with Orm's plot and Arthur's backstory really drags the film's pacing. If the story was tweaked a bit where we start the film with the League doing hero stuff and then them finding out about Arthur and Atlantis, it would have been a lot better in my opinion. I know it's labeled as a Justice League movie, but so was Flashpoint Paradox, and that was far more of a Flash-centered movie. Also, look at the poster. They have Aquaman front and center as the new character that is the face of it. And to be honest, his origin story would have been a lot better paced and fleshed out if they didn't stuff in the other heroes. I think that's the biggest flaw of the movie, however, I'd still call it a good time overall. I enjoyed all the Aquaman and Atlantis stuff, and the things I liked from the characters from Justice League War were still there, but the League as a whole just cramps up the story. As an Aquaman movie before he was taken seriously, I'm glad the team behind it can make it a decent project. Oh, I guess I should also mention that the physical release of this movie came with a 1-minute short about Nightwing and Robin, following up on Batman's hunt for the Scarecrow from this movie. I guess I can cover that here too, I've got time. Nightwing and Robin is so short that I don't even know if I can call it a short film. It only features the voices of Batman and the Scarecrow, meaning we miss out on the relationship between the two characters from Son of Batman, but we do get a nice little action sequence of them beating up goons. I'm also a bit disappointed we don't see the Scarecrow using his fear gas, which is the thing that makes him unique and one of my favorite Bat villains, but whatever. For what it is, essentially just a bonus feature, it's alright. Anyway, those are all my thoughts on Justice League Throne of Atlantis. Please let me know your thoughts on the movie in the comments and check it out if you haven't. Next up on the list is Batman vs. Robin, so stay tuned for that review. My money's on Batman winning, I mean, he's Batman. Leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you feel like it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and goodbye.